Hello everyone and welcome to another Outriders Worldslayer video. Today I'm going to share with you an Anomaly power pyromancer build using the Reforged set. I feel a little lucky because I was going to make this build before the patch, but I decided to wait a little bit, and I was very lucky to wait because now they have further buffed the Reforged set, making it even better. Although they fixed the Mage's Rage, you don't get insane Anomaly power, this set still works very well, or even better, because we wouldn't rely so much on Mage's Rage or my first iteration, and now it works even better. So without any further delay, let's start with our skills. I actually have a couple of different varieties for this build because I have tried all the other skills. We have to have Feed the Flames and Thermal Pump because these work best with the Reforged set. After that we have to choose another skill, so Heat Wave and Phaser Beam are the worst options to choose for this build, as well as Eruption doesn't work as well, although we can do some good things. It doesn't fit very well for the build. Phaser Beam especially doesn't work very well because we don't stack a lot of status power, so it's a waste of skill. Now, all the other three skills that remain are very decent. Ash Blast, Volcanic Rounds and Overheat works very well with three variations of this build. Volcanic Rounds is the best build because we're using only one mod, the Reload Boost, that will give us 25% anomaly damage, and it's active all the time, so it's one of the best and probably my personal favorite. If we're going with Overheat, this can transform in a skill spammer, let's say, build, that all your skills will have very low cooldowns. Overheat will have around 3.4 seconds cooldown, something like that, because we're going to use Detonator, so you can basically spam all your skills very fast. And Ash Blast is also good because it offers a little more crowd control compared to the other skills. Overheat also offers crowd control, but Ash Blast is a little better because it inflicts ash to all the enemies and also debuff them even further. So if I had to choose, my number one priority would be Volcanic Rounds. My number two will be Ash Blast, and number three, probably very close to Ash Blast, is Overheat. I'm going to share you the differences in the mods, but now let's have a look at the armor and mods. Three pieces of the Reforged always: the head, the chest and the legs. All of them have anomaly power, skill leech, cooldown reduction. You see, none of the armor pieces have status power. That's why I don't prefer to use something that focuses on status power, and that's why Ash Blast is not my first choice. Now the two epic pieces, the best idea scenario must be Anomaly Power, Status Power, and Skill Life Leech. If you don't find two of the three, Anomaly Power is priority, and then you need to get the proper mods. Status Power, Healing Received is decent, or something like that. Cooldown reduction is a waste because we have so high cooldown reduction from only the three pieces that you will go way beyond of what you actually need. Now let's have a look at each individual item that we're going to use. For the head, I left Double Fund and Final Breath. Actually, this is very good because it reduces the cooldown of Feed the Flames by 50%, and Feed the Flames is actually dealing very decent damage now. So yes, I left it as it is. High Stakes is a wasted mod for me. I would definitely replace it when I find a better Apocalypse armor piece. For the chest, Branded, and I have added Fire Trap and no resistance against the Fortified. This was nerfed due to the recent patch, but is still one of the best options. Instead of 100% of armor piece becoming a resistance pierce, now we have 65%, so it still works very well. If you remember the old mode before the Worldslayer, it was 50%, so it's still a better version compared to the New Horizons. Fire Trap, I'm very impressed with this mod. I started testing without Fire Trap, but after I added this to the build, I'm never going to remove it. One of the top DPS sources here. It works very well and kills the enemies very fast, and it's very decent even in single target DPS. For the legs, I left Flame Grasper and Fire Frenzy, although it seems that I have edited because I have tried with one Thermal Bomb, but yet two Thermal Bomb works very well. Sunburn is either a wasted mod or something I definitely need to replace, because even when I'm using Overheat, I don't know if I want to use Sunburn. Now for the hands, I have Bullet Kindling and Reload Boost because this is the interaction with the volcanic rounds. True Blast is an overkill. I don't think this is necessary. I'm going to replace this mode with first chance I get, but Bullet Kindling is a must, Reload Boost is a must, Anomaly Power, Status Power, and I hope to find something with Skill Life Leech. For the boots, Big Boom, Unstoppable Force, 40% extra radius for the Thermal Bomb is a must for this build. Otherwise, Thermal Bomb won't deal as much damage. Unstoppable Force, of course, we have a lot of resistance piercing, so this will give us a lot of extra Anomaly Power. Wide Grip is an overkill. I'm going to replace once again this mod first thing I can, and I hope to find something that instead of cooldown reduction will have Status Power. So for this version, when we're using for the Reload Boost, you have a couple of options for the weapons. Head to the Desert is probably the best weapon because it has Armor Pierce, Status Power, Skill Life Leech, Sandstorm. We have to add Omen. I'm very impressed with this mod. It deals a lot of damage and debuffs the enemies, so I do like it a lot. And Fortress is actually a bad mod here because we're going to switch our weapons very frequently because we're using Reload Boost, and we cannot get so much benefit from Fortress or Mage's Rage. So here you need something like Violent Rapture or something that deals a lot of damage. That's why I'm using Mythos in this iteration, because I have added Omen, Violent Rapture, and have Ultimate Anomaly Surge. Mythos is not the best because it has Armor Pierce, but it doesn't have Status Power or Skill Life Leech. That's why I prefer, if I can, and find the Heir to the Desert. For the secondary weapon, we're either using the Anomaly Shotgun or the Guillotine. Moony Winds, Radiation Splash. Ideally for the Apocalypse mode, we're aiming for clean combustion basically. We will also trigger when reloading, so this is not a good roll, but even an epic piece, Moony Winds, Radiation Splash deal a lot of damage. This will help you when you go close to the enemies to kill them, kill elites, or if you get surrounded. For the sidearm, we're going to use anything and just add Firestorm to have for the sidearm for this iteration of the build, just in case you want to use it, just to proc it against elites or bosses. Armor Pierce Status Power is welcome, and any other mods like Fireworks or something that deals a lot of damage. That's not the same as our main weapons, but Firestorm is a must. Now what we're going to change in case, for example, we have Ash Blast, well, it's very easy. We replace Reload Boost and, for example, True Blast, that is not an ideal mod with this piece, for example, that has Death Sentence and Ash Increase Range. This way you will inflict Ash in a very long distance and you will debuff the enemies for 5 seconds. That's why I prefer Reload Boost instead of Death Sentence. You have to apply this debuff to the enemies and wait for the next cooldown to apply to the next. Reload Boost is a little superior because although it's 25% anomaly damage instead of 30%, it will be applied to all enemies all the time. That's why I prefer it personally, but Death Sentence and Ash Blast, if you have a lot of status power, now for example, personally I have only 27% because I don't have the good weapon, but if I have a good weapon I will have 64%, and if I have boots with status power, for example, we will have something like 100%, which is something that will make better the Ash Blast variant. For the weapons you can also use, for example, something like Heir to the Desert with Fortress, because now we're not going to switch our weapons so frequently. You don't have to trigger reload boost. You can, for example, have Sunstorm, Omen. So ideally we will have something with Fortress, Omen and another mod. I don't know if I want to go for criticals with Mage's Rage. I can try, but I do prefer to have Omen, definitely Fortress and something else. Because Omen is one of my favorite, the 10% extra damage helps a lot for single target DPS, that's why I like it. The rest of the weapons are going to be the same, Anomaly shotgun in case we have it, and pistols with Firestorm just in case we want to proc it against bosses. The final version of the build while using Overheat is a little different because we're going to use 3 different mods. We need Detonator to decrease the cooldown of Overheat by 50%, and we definitely need Turn Up the Heat and Master Consumer. This is actually very good even if you don't inflict Ash to enemies thanks to our skills and our tree. We can inflict thanks to this and Firestorm, Ash to enemies and Burn. So it's very good, and we have to go with a sidearm that has Firestorm, Armor Pierce, Status Power, first things first. This is one of the best, although revolvers aren't the best kind of pistols. I prefer the fully automatic because I can aim a little better Firestorm for longer range, and in the ideal scenario you win something with first things first, Firestorm and another mod that deals a lot of damage. I also want to try Fortress if I find 2 automatic pistols, but I was very unlucky with my drops and this is the only pistol I have. Now, why we're using sidearms for this version of the build? Our skill cooldowns, as you can see, are very low, and we need to use Thermal Bomb as fast as possible. If you equipped a sidearm and you use the Thermal Bomb, the animation is actually very fast. You instantly cast it, you don't have any delays, but you can use them very frequently, so that's why we prefer to go with the sidearm, because you can actually spam all your skills very fast. Let's have a closer look at some mods we definitely want to use when we find better Apocalypse mode as we level up. Captain Hunter is a must, 16% extra against elites. We have a little issue with single target DPS, this will make things easier. And definitely Power Simulation, one of my favorite. A lot of Anomaly power as long as there is one elite, but if you have more elites in the battlefield, this can give you absurd amount of Anomaly power. That's why I do like it a lot. I have to test Danger Close. 6% Anomaly power for its enemy in close range up to 24% sounds pretty decent, because if you see my video, I go close range most of the times to the enemies, so I should take advantage of this, but I have to test it. Now, Arms and Anomaly, I may use it if I go with Mage's Rage and bother to do criticals. If I don't bother doing criticals, we won't take advantage of this, and usually if you go for the skill spammer especially, this is pretty bad. It's better to have Anomaly Echo, for example, compared to Arms and Anomaly, because this will be up 24/7 and this will be up never. Thermal Reaction, I have to test it a little bit, but for now I'm still disappointed. And Ashen Bloom is also a little disappointed. If I have tested for the mods, only Fire Trap is the best. I have to also test Voracious Flames a little bit when I find better mods, because I do believe this will help us a little bit for single target DPS, for some elites and some bosses, and will make some difference. For tier 2 mods, there aren't many things you can also include. We have included the best things we can. Ashen Boost isn't as well because we don't inflict so much ash to enemies, so it's not as good, so I don't really recommend it unless you go with the Ash Blast variant. Then this is actually very good, and you have around 100% status power. Ashen Boost then becomes a very good choice. Otherwise, don't use it. If you have trouble surviving, Damage Absorber is my favorite. Just use it, you will have a lot more survivability, you will see a huge difference. And if you have trouble surviving against enemies that deal anomaly damage, Circle of Power, 30% extra resistance is almost welcome. And if you have just room for both, use both and become nearly immortal. There is only one from the tier 1 mods. I would like to try Anomaly Hunger. Will increase the damage of Feed the Flames based on the value of skill each. We can get around 40 something if we use our nodes, so it will increase Feed the Flames a little bit further, and they already do a lot of damage, so I do like it a lot. I also may like if I have a spot to use Nova to have a long range with Feed the Flames. Otherwise, all the other mods I don't prefer anything else unless you go with the Overheat. Phoenix Force can be decent, so you will get some anomaly power boost, and Punch on Fire is actually one of the best because you will spam it so fast. You can drop the enemy's health a lot, but I have to test it a little more. I do believe this can be decent to speedrun a little bit of levels a little faster. For the weapons, there are not many different choices. We're going to use Fortress and Mage's Raids and or if we're going for the version that doesn't use reload boost. And especially Mage's Raids can be still good. 40% anomaly power is actually pretty decent. In combination with Fortress, you will get a lot of boost, but I do believe Omen is a must. The enemies will receive 10% extra damage for 3 seconds, will actually make a little better burst damage, so I do like it. Debuffs the enemies, applies bleed, yes, very good, very nice, I do prefer it. Firestorm is a must as I told you, and then you can just choose between the other mods. Violent Rapture, I'm very impressed with this mod, it deals a lot of damage, it has a huge range, a very decent cooldown. Ultimate Storm Whip is actually something if you want to go for fully single target DPS without using Fortress and focusing a lot, just shoot once, use your skills, shoot once or twice to proc. Because actually, for example, Claymore Torrent, yes, it's better, it has 2 seconds cooldown and deals much less damage compared, for example, to Ultimate Storm Whip, but we want the mods that hit the hardest because we have decent and very good AoE, but we lack single target DPS, that's why we're taking something that deals the most amount of damage. I haven't tested Detronome because I haven't the opportunity, but I'm not impressed with the anomaly power we're getting. It seems decent, but you must make the rotation work. Otherwise, you won't get as much benefit as you need. Especially, we need our third skill to hit the hardest because of our Pax Tree, and using Detronome, our third skill won't get anomaly power boost that we need. Let's move on to our talents. Now, this is what I use for all iterations of the build. We're going for the Tempest Tree, everything for cooldown reduction, and definitely Phoenix Nestling. We're very squishy with this build, especially since I haven't invested anything in survivability. I do like Phoenix Nestling, it helped me survive a lot of times. If you are a little slow, even if I have survivability mods, I'm going to use it, I love it. And I'm going for the Ashbreaker for hot situation and conflagration, so I have a little more than 80% of resistance spears. Let's move on to our Pax Tree. Apart from a flex slot, everything else will remain the same. Melting Point, Master Exploder, Convection was nerfed a little bit, but it doesn't affect us as much. We have very low skill cooldowns, so we won't feel the Convection nerf so much. And Backdraft. These are the must. If you're going now for Volcanic Rounds or Ash Blast, I do recommend to get Coming in Hot. This way you will deal a lot extra damage for high enemies or low health enemies. This actually works very well with Extinction, so you will just deal a lot of damage for bosses or elite that are below 30% health to basically destroy them, so this can be very good. If you go for Overheat, Trigger Sequence actually becomes very good, because now Overheat and Thermal Bomb, our two highest damaging skills and sources, will deal 35% extra damage, so actually that's why I recommend this. We can also get Conduction, because now thankfully they fixed it. This was going to be applied usually to the global cooldown reduction, but now how the skills work, for example, let's demonstrate. We have Ash Blast that has 10.6 second cooldown and all the other skills. If we now get the Conduction, 9 seconds cooldown, 3.5, 3.2. So it's stuck, thankfully, and you can reduce the cooldown of Ash Blast. Also, they fixed the Wildfire. Now we can also create Wildfire and further reduce the cooldown, for example, of Ash Blast of anything else by 10%. This opens very nice horizons, especially if you consider that we can take Wildfire and Conduction to reduce the cooldown, for example, of Eruption. Even now, without the Lava Leech, we have 10.9 seconds cooldown of Eruption, and without Wildfire. So with Lava Leech and Wildfire, Eruption can potentially become very good. Let's move on to the Ascension, because it's pretty simple. We get everything in Anomaly, we leave as a last priority probably, depending on our build, the Status Power or the Skill Leech, because we need Armor Pierce, damage against elites, full out the Anomaly tree, and then go full Endurance for some survivability. After that, you can get, for example, magazine size and some brutality modes, especially if you plan to go for a more hybrid build that I have already made. You need to invest in brutality, but since we're not going for hybrid build, you don't need to invest in brutality at all. The rotation is pretty similar for all the builds, apart from the reload boost volcanic rounds build, because we need to make sure that we switch our weapons to proc the reload boost. If you go for the reload, it's much slower compared to just switch your weapon and get the proc. That's the only difficult thing. You don't have to switch, for example, to your secondary weapon and proc Money Winds and Radiation Splash. You can switch to your pistol to proc, for example, Firestorm, proc the reload boost, switch back to your main weapon. This way you won't lose the benefit of the Money Winds from the secondary weapon, and you can keep it to deal a lot of damage to, let's say, some elites or enemies that come closer. If you get the Ash Blast variant, you don't have to worry about using the reload boost, so you can simply use your Feed the Flames, Thermal Bomb, and Ash Blast on cooldown, and the same goes for Overheat, that you basically spam your skills, especially since you have the pistol, and spam your skills, destroy everything, and move on. Now, the timers that I have tested for expeditions, Tarek Ratar, and things like that are very similar and surprisingly very close to each other. The build is very strong, is very good, but it has only one problem, and that's single target DPS, and not in expeditions or Tarek Ratar elites. I mean, for the final arbiter, it's a pain to kill him with any iteration of the build, and because of I'm still very unlucky with my drops, I don't have the optimal build to try it and see how it goes, because I do believe with an optimal build we may do some things extra with having the Captain Hunter, other mods, and make things extra, but for now it doesn't work as well for the final arbiter, and I don't recommend, especially if you want to farm it, to go like this. The hybrid variant of the Reforged build that focuses on both firepower and anomaly power works much better and kills the final arbiter much faster, but this version of the build is a little faster to complete the expeditions in Tarek Radar for random enemies, because you spam the skills, have better AoE, and deal a lot of damage. You don't need so much single target DPS, and even in expeditions, your single target DPS is very decent to kill all the elites, Moloch, Dr. Detonator, or similar bosses. So that was it for today's video. I really hope this will help you make your own version of the Reforged Anomaly Power Pyromancer build. It's very decent, it's very nice. I do looking forward to find all the mods I'm missing to see if I can make it a little better for single target DPS against the final arbiter. Otherwise, for the final arbiter, I'm just going to switch my build to the variation with the firepower and anomaly power to just kill him much faster. But this works very well for the rest of Tarek Ratar and for expeditions and anything else you do. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch it. Extra thank you in case you stick around until the end. Feel free to like and subscribe for more upcoming videos for Outriders Worldslayer and other video games. And as always, I wish you all a wonderful day.